Thank you for participating. There will be a video version of this, which is what you're watching right now, as well as the slides. So if you want to pull up the slides while you're watching the video so you can play around, go through things at your own pace, feel free to do that. I also would recommend that as you go through this, that you pause the video from time to time, maybe have another device open so you can practice using some of the different tools that you're learning. So our focus for today and our goals will be to practice using Read and Write for Google Chrome on your toolbar. That is a extension that works in Chrome and Chrome only. And all of our staff in BCSE, as well as all of our students, have access to Read and Write for Google. Something that we pay for and is a great tool for supporting all of our learners as they learn to read, write, decode text, understand vocabulary, and the like. We also are going to learn how to use Snapverter, which is another tool from the same company as Read and Write for Google. You also have access to that. And what Snapverter does is it allows you to take pictures of maybe written text or documents, maybe old worksheets, workbook pages, and make them digital, but in a format where students can also annotate on them, write on them in just a snap. So you take the picture, it uploads, and then you can use it. So it's a pretty awesome feature. And then ideally, by the end of the session, you can plan how you can use what you've learned in this session in your learning environment and how you can use some of these tools to make learning a little bit more accessible for your students. So this session was also presented at laptop lunches at the high school. So if you have participated in those, it is the same content. But again, you can pause and play and skip through things as you need to. Kind of the beauty of a virtual session is you get to do that. So on the screen right now, and I will say Corie Williams and I are the ones who initially presented this, so that's why both of our little cartoon selves are on this. This slide right here is a particularly helpful one if you are wanting to be able to look at resources and kind of get a feel for things at your own pace. So what this is it's really just a cheat sheet page. These are all of the different buttons that are within the Read and Write for Google toolbar. I'll be referencing lots of them, showing you how to use each and every single one of those buttons. But if you want to jump ahead to a specific one, if you click anywhere, it will take you to that slide dedicated to that particular tool. It's kind of a quick way, and you can even make a copy of the slide deck and save it, or just save it in your Google Drive so that you have access to it always. You can use that as a reference, or better yet, you can share this with your students so they have this as a reference as well and can remember how to use some of those different tools. So what is Read and Write for Google? There are videos as part of this presentation, but for sake of time, I'm not going to play every single one of those because a lot of them are what I'm going to be demoing and showing you anyway. The videos are there for more of a self-paced version of this where you're just using the slides rather than the video. So it is a Google Chrome extension, which means that it's an app that works within the Google Chrome browser. And it works on lots of different resources. It works in docs and G Suite materials like slides, sheets, forms, drawings. It works lots of places, but it also works on websites as well. So know that it's not just limited to those G Suite tools. If you're having students do research, you can use this tool then. And what it does is it gives you a whole toolbar of accessibility tools that can help with word prediction, a dictionary, picture dictionary, text to speech, voice notes for giving feedback, highlighting and research, and much more. And we're going to go into every single one of those different features in this session. If you need to go back at any point in time to that page before this where it was all the different buttons, the home button will also take you there. So first thing we need to do is make sure that we have the Read and Write for Google extension downloaded onto our device. Now, if you are signed in on your device with your BCSE Google account, and I don't just mean signed in with your account, I mean signed into your browser, which is a slight difference, then you probably already have this and have seen the icon before. If you haven't, I'm going to walk you through how you can do that, because if you don't have it, then this is not going to be the most helpful session because you won't see any of the tools. So difference here between signing into a browser versus just signing into your account. I can be on Google Chrome on any device I want. Maybe if it's even a public computer like at a library and it's not mine, I can open up a new window here, sign in with my Google, and I'm fine, but I'm not signed into my actual browser. Browser means the whole internet feature here. So that is this little person icon up here. If you were signed in, it will show your name. If you have a picture that goes with your account, it'll put it there. I don't have a picture, so it just shows a person. And typically, if you see all these different buttons across the top, it means you're signed into your browser, because these will follow you on any device that you sign into the browser. So if I'm on a Chromebook instead of my laptop and I sign in to my browser, then I have all my extensions and things there. And that's why it's important that you sign into your browser, so you have your browsing history, your apps and extensions, and all those things that really personalize your internet experience with you on any device that you use. So to sign in, you click there. This is where you can sign in, and I would make sure that you have it to where sync is on. That way, if we push out any updates or new features, it will automatically put those on your device. If you don't have sync turned on, then you're not getting that full experience and personalized internet experience. So that's just a quick thing to know there. If you don't see Read and Write for Google across the top, it's this little purple puzzle piece. You click here on the slide deck, you can add it there, but it mainly will be added if you just sign into your browser, because we have that available on all devices. Your students as well have access to Read and Write for Google, so they'll need to sign into their browser too. If they're on a Chromebook, it automatically signs them into the browser. They don't have to do any extra steps. If they're on a laptop, they'll need to sign into the browser. So first thing I'm going to show you is the Check It feature on Read and Write for Google's toolbar. This feature currently only works in Google Docs. And as we go through my slide deck, these little icons here will help you know what places these different tool buttons work, because if you open this up in slides, you'll say, I don't have the Check It feature, and that's because it only works in Google Docs. So what it does is it's built-in punctuation, spelling, and grammar check, and just really helps you work through some things. So there's a sample doc that is linked here, and it allows you to make a copy of it. You can make a copy. That will take a second to load, but there we go, wherever we are. So if I am using this and I've written out my assignment, whether I'm the teacher or I'm the student and I'm working on a document, to pull up the Check It feature, I'll click this toolbar here at the top for Read and Write. Sometimes it takes a second for it to pop up. But once it does, these are all of my Read and Write for Google toolbar features. To use the Check It feature, I'll click Check It. And if you notice, it took a second there, but it will show me areas where I could possibly change my words and my phrasing. It's a little bit more comprehensive than just a basic spell check. It gives you grammar suggestions too. So if I click here, it gives me examples of maybe what I should change. All right, and if I have duplicate words here, it'll tell me I can change those too. I can ignore that, so it kind of sets the threshold moving forward on if it's going to keep correcting me on those things. If not, then it will stay the same. I can also add words to my dictionary too, so it stops telling me I need to change them. Typically that's good for people's names and like, but that is how you use the Check It feature. That's a pretty simple, straightforward one. And there's a video there if you wanted to watch that again. Shows on a different view. So this next feature is a little bit more comprehensive in that it works in lots of different places. So it works in docs, slides, and also on the internet. So what it does is it allows you to have words predicted to help you with spelling and writing on the internet. So if I pull up that same document again, exit out of this so you can see it, go back to my argumentative essay. I'm going to turn on word prediction. I just click it once. I type in my words, and then if I want to use any one of those, I click one, or I can click the word it's
running.
It will
Four.
out loud to me.
Four. President.
The dog was running for president. That's kind of a funny word prediction there. But as you type, it will learn to adapt to what you're writing in your essay. And again, to easily add those words in, I can either click
in
here, or I can just keep typing, kind of use it as a spelling reference. So this is really helpful for students if they're striving readers, striving writers. They might need that extra support there if they're having a hard time figuring out how they want to say something, but they know how to say it in their head. So it's an option there. And again, that works on slides and other websites too. So maybe if they're typing within a test platform, they can use that as well. So that is the word prediction feature. The next feature is probably one of the more popular tools on Read and Write for Google, and that is the Talking Dictionary. So what the Talking Dictionary does on Read and Write is it allows you to hover over a selected word or select the word itself, and it will bring up a dictionary of that word. So it will explain what that word means, and it will read it out loud to you as well. It gives you synonyms, antonyms, and you can use this within Google Doc, a slide, or even just on the internet if you're doing research, so on your web browser. So an example of how this works, I'm going to go back out of my slides again. But if I am in this, I'm going to get rid of my little comment there. But if I hover over this word and I click dictionary, which is the next button over, it will tell me what that word is. And it gives me multiple definitions. So I have an idea of what that means.
President.
And I click play and it will read it out loud to me.
Noun.
Definition.
The president is the leader of the republic, the American president.
So again, another option there for your students for representation. If they're learning new vocabulary or if they're ELL students and they're still learning another language, this is an option for them to hear the vocabulary as they see it and read it and get an understanding. Along those same lines, one of the other really popular features on Read and Write for Google is the picture dictionary, which makes pictures or gives you visual representations of different vocabulary words. So similar to the talking dictionary, if I click a word or if I hover over it, it will bring up a window of that word and it will show me a picture of what it means. This is really helpful as well. Sometimes I like to use the picture dictionary to come up with icons for words that are really simple and easy for students to understand. I've used them before to make flashcards for my students. So they see those pictures, and then when they're reading their documents and using these features themselves, those vocabulary images are familiar to them. And it really does a good job of representing things in basic vocabulary terms. So a great way of combining this in an assignment is to maybe have students use the picture dictionary to come up with an image of what the word means to them. And they can even use the dictionary to help them write a definition and remember the meaning of the word. So it works on docs, slides, and the web. I pull up my document here again, and I click Picture Dictionary. There are some pictures that come up, and I can drag and drop those over into my document. Or if I'm not in an actual Google Doc and I'm using this, maybe I'm reading a news article and I want to use a picture dictionary and it's telling me the meaning of a word in a visual sense, I can copy or save this image and then put it on my own document for my notes. So that is how you use the picture dictionary. All right. Next one, you kind of got a preview to this when I showed you the talking dictionary when I was talking out loud, but there's also a text-to-speech feature built in within Read and Write for Google as well. And this works in documents and it also works on the web. And what it does is allows you to select or hover over a paragraph or even longer of text, and it reads it out loud to you. And as it reads it, it highlights the words so you can really track and follow with it as it goes. So to use this feature, I'm going to go back to my document here. I'm going to get rid of my picture dictionary because it's giving me pictures for all those different words that I was accidentally just clicking on. And if I wanted to read this out loud, I can either click at the beginning, I can select a certain paragraph, but I'll just click play.
Music can change the world. Several students don't play an instrument because of the cost. Many schools support music programs. Many people enjoy playing an instrument. Some people say that students shouldn't have to play an instrument because students may be busy.
All right, so if you see it was following through as I was going. If I want to see what this looks like on the web browser, here's a news article. So I'm going to pull up my Read and Write for Google toolbar again. Same thing. This website's acting a little slow, IndyStar. We're going to see if I can get it to pop up. I might have to refresh. All right, we'll try a different one instead. All right, here's a random news article that we can have it read out loud to us. All right. All right, so we're actually going to look at a different website because that one wanted me to pay to read that specific article that I randomly picked. So if I am on this website and I want to have it read the text out loud to me.
Preheat a grill to medium-high and brush the grates with vegetable oil. Toss the chicken with the olive oil, vinegar, rosemary, garlic, red pepper flakes, and salt in a large bowl.
So there we go. It will read websites out loud to me as well. And there's some delicious looking food. If you want to get some summer food inspiration, Food Network has a whole series of easy summer recipes. All right, so refocusing and back to what we were doing. So that is the text-to-speech feature. The next feature is one that is also pushed out to all of your devices, but is one that's a little bit lesser known, and that is the screenshot reader. So the way the screenshot reader works is it allows you to take a screenshot of a website and it saves it in your Google Drive, and just really gives you a version of it that you can access anytime, anywhere. And it can also give you pictures that you can insert into other places on the internet. So if I go to back to my website and maybe I want to remember this website or put this picture somewhere else. This again only works on the web. It's not something that shows up everywhere, but if I click screenshot reader, I can select what section of my screen I want to take a screenshot of. Maybe that little yummy looking food. It does take it a second. As you see, the colors are moving. That's because it's taken a second to take a picture of my screenshot.
VSR, GXJWNPR.
All right, since I actually already read that website aloud to you, I'm going to show you a different one. But the screenshot reader, it basically allows you to take a screenshot of a website or a page and it reads it out loud to you. So this is particularly helpful if your students are reading on a website where maybe the text to speech is struggling because there's lots of different multimedia like ads and pictures and things that are conflicting with its ability to do that. It's also great if you're using a PDF in class and you want your students to be able to have that read aloud. So to use a screenshot reader, I'm going to click here, have it, and it does take it a second. So again, the colors changing across my little screenshot there tells me that it's still working on reading that. It's going to start as soon as it's finished processing. It will start reading that aloud to me. So it's basically
I4 US does. How do you mummify a body? Comma, SE assuming simple curiosity is driving your question, SLGFGG the answer depends on whom you ask.
So it literally reads everything. So including the punctuation and all of that stuff. So just kind of prepare yourself before you use that the first time. And to stop it from reading, I just click the X in the corner of that screenshot. So that is the screenshot reader. Next one is a fairly lesser known feature, and that is the audio maker within Read and Write for Google. And what it's allowed you to do is create an audio file of selected text on the web. So the helpful thing here is that maybe I'm doing research for a project and I really love to use that text to speech feature and I want to be able to remember that information really quickly. So and maybe I like to listen to that on the go anywhere. And if you have the Google Drive app, then you can listen to notes and things anywhere you go. So if I use the audio maker, it will save me an audio recording of that website so I can listen back to it. So a lot of our students like to be able to listen and to read with their ears. This is a way for them to do that and to save what they've been reading with their ears in their Google Drive so they can access it anytime, anywhere. So if I go to outside of my presentation again and come here, here is the audio maker. And it makes an audio file of what I selected on that page. If you don't select anything, then it will do its best to read everything it can. So if you're looking at a pretty hefty website like what I have right here, I would suggest selecting a section of it so it's not a bunch of a really large file of text. I like to do mine in different segments, so then again, it's a little shorter audio files. But I can save those in my Google Drive just by opening Drive in a new window and then uploading it so I can save it from there. And I'll show you the finished product.
You asked us, how do you mummify a body? Assuming simple curiosity is driving your question, the answer depends on whom you ask. The ancient Egyptians would say if you had enough wealth and status, special priests could
So that's what it looks like there. And then I can save this file. I can add it to my Google Slides if I want. I can use this in lots of different places. If I'm a teacher, if I don't want to make my own audio recording, this could be another option for me to still give students that option and have it built in to my lessons. So that is the audio maker. The next one is the web search or fact finder. So this is really helpful if you're in the beginning phases of a new unit, a new topic or lesson, or you're doing research, because what it allows you to do is if you highlight a word on a website, news article, whatever have you, it will bring up a Google search of that specific term in a new tab on your browser. So it allows you to really kind of open up a specific search pretty hands-free without having to type in the word itself on your own. So if I am on my little ancient Egyptians one here, I'm going to do Egyptians. So I'm going to select Egyptians. And then it's this one right here, web search. And then it brings up a search of that in a new window so I can continue my research while still having my original reading article here. So that's the benefit of using the web search feature, is quick, easy researching and learning more on the go. All right. So our next one is screen masking. And this is helpful for some of our students who like to be able to focus on a smaller chunk of text while they read. This is helpful for some of our students who might have vision impairments or are dyslexic and like to have that option to screen mask and view things in that format. So this allows you to stay focused on written content as you read, and you can determine the colors of the screen mask that you like to use and what the opacity is. So the ability to see through the screen mask if it's really dark or if it's not. So to open this up, again, I will pull up a website or resource, and then screen masking is this one here. And if you ever want to know what a button is, if you hover over it, it's another way you can look. It doesn't do anything at first until I hover over my text. If you want to have some control over those settings while you're screen masking, I click my little settings wheel here. This is where I can change my reading color, the opacity, reading light, and the height and weight of that. So I can determine how big the screen mask is or how small it is. So I can focus line by line or paragraph by paragraph. And this again allows me to read through at my own pace. And as you're screen masking, you can still highlight things and have them read out loud. I can still use the picture dictionary, but I'm just very focused on a smaller portion of the text, which might be a little less intimidating for some of our students. To turn it off, I simply click, again, the screen masking button, and then I'm back to the original view of that document. All right, next one is Talk&Type. So this is a really great way for your students to speak into a microphone, whether they're using a Chromebook or a laptop or maybe even an iPad. And what they can do is, as I talk, it will start typing words for them. So this is really a speak to text version. So if you've ever used that on your phone or another device, or even when you're sending out a message to someone, if you're driving, this is a similar feature to that. So it allows you to have a computer generate words that are spoken. So it works with slides and also works on Google Forms. So if you're someone who likes to use Google Forms for quizzes and exit tickets or really short assessments. This is a way of giving your students who might be struggling to physically navigate and operate on device a way of expressing themselves without having to physically type out their response. So again, it's another option. If I close out of this, I can show you what that feature is. It is that little headphones looking one right there. All right. It also works in docs too. Hello and good morning. So there we go. I'll turn that off before it keeps going. And it keeps a little icon there. So if I'm someone who's going back and looking at this document again, if I see this icon, I can start again, stop it, close it, or I can close it there and then we'll get rid of it. But that is how you can use that talk and type feature. It also works in slides and on forms too. So it's a pretty flexible tool and is another helpful one for our students. Moving right along. Our next one is called the Simplify feature within Read and Write for Google. So this is similar to that website that was kind of making its rounds a few years ago called Too Long Didn't Read, because it would simplify a longer news article and just give you the need to know points, the most important information. So that's a similar feature here within Read and Write. It's just called Simplify. So it allows you to take a lengthier text and it shortens it to make it more concise. And it only works on the web right now. So if I pull up a website, it is this one. It's actually not there. It's way far over here. So it's Simplify. And it opens it in another window. And there we go. And it really is also nice because it gets rid of some of that clutter that's on websites and news articles and research databases where it's ads or distractions. This really gives you a clean version of that document. And it tells me my Lexile score. So if I want to give my students a different version of that, if I want to simplify it less, I can click here, make it a little bit more wordy or lengthy for my students, simplify it more. This one automatically defaulted it to the most simplified version possible, but I have some control over that, as do your students if they use this. I can change the way the actual simplified text looks. So this is kind of nice. Your students have another way of changing the way that their font looks. It's a little harsh in my eyes. You can change the font. There's a dyslexic font option. You can change the font size. Again, this is pretty fantastic if you ask me. And then you can even change the spacing if you want to. So students have local control over all of this. And I can even save a version of this if I want to as well. All right, so that is the simplified version of my text. Next one is Translator. So this is one I almost clicked on last time. The Translator feature allows you to translate text, as the name suggests, and you can decide what language you would like things to be translated into. So that's kind of in the first initial settings here, and what I would recommend looking at before you try to use the Translate feature itself is if I open my document here, Translator works in lots of different places on the web, within G Suite. I'm going to move my video self a little bit further away. My 3-dot button here in the corner is where I have some settings options, and that's where you can toggle the language that it translates it into. You can even change the voice that it does the reading aloud to and the speed. And it speaks on those different languages there. If I want to change my language, this is what my feature language is. If I want to change my translation here, I can change it into a different one. So I'm going to do Malay. I had a student who was from Malaysia, so this is a nod to him. All right. Highlight there, and I'll do translate. and it translates the different words for me. So if I want to see a different word translated, I'd have to highlight it or just select it. And it does that for me word by word. So that is how you use the translate feature. I can change the language if I want to a different one. All right, so then this video shows a couple other features you can use, but that's the main gist of it. Other helpful things here, this is particularly helpful if you are having students really dive into note-taking and organizing their notes. We know that with students in high school and middle school and even upper elementary, that's when they're really starting to get more independent and do some of those tasks on their own. But managing all their resources and those executive functioning skills are still very much in development and is an area where some of our students struggle. So this read and write feature with highlights and collecting highlights is one of the best ones for helping your students manage a lot of information in an easy way. So there are lots of different highlighting options here within Read and Write for Google. And this works in lots of different places on the web, on Google Doc, whatever have you. So if I'm going to pull this up, this is maybe a reading I give my students as an assignment. And I ask them to highlight or to basically annotate, add some details to this reading assignment. So if they hover over a sentence, they can highlight it. And maybe I have them highlight different things or color code what they're highlighting. So maybe a yellow highlight is a main idea. And maybe a blue highlight is for something that I need help with or more clarification on. And let's say that maybe the green highlight is new vocabulary. There are teachers who have their own specialized meanings for these things. That's something that you can come up with, or your students can come up with on their own. And let's say I change my mind on this one. So I can use any one of those to change my colors. If I want to erase it, I can there. I'm getting ahead of myself on this next slide, but the collect highlights feature is this next really awesome tool. It's connected with the highlights. And what it does is after I have finished highlighting and annotating my whole document, I can collect the highlights from it by clicking this collect highlights button. I can sort it by however I would like here, by color. I can decide what colors I want it to be. So maybe I only want to collect the blue ones from my document because blue were things that I had questions about or needed more help with. And I can send that as a separate resource to my teacher and say, these are the things I had questions on. My teacher sees in a bunch of writing what I needed help with, which is another way for teachers to organize the information. Or maybe I just put everything in one document so that I have my own noteworthy version of what I read. And what it's going to do is create a new document. It saves it automatically in my Google Drive, and it has all of my highlights within that document. And it has them all color coordinated. And it tells me my name is here, and it actually links back to that original document or that place where I got those highlights. So it allows you to have your notes and then back to the original version. So it's pretty amazing what it can do. This is great for helping students gather research and collect their notes and just stay on task. If I am in a web page, I can do that as well and collect my highlights. And it will take information from the web page, which again, pretty awesome. And it tells me the website where I got it from, so I can cite that later on or go back to it for further research. I did get ahead of myself, but if you want another video that walks you through the collect highlights, that's what this specific slide is that I already showed you. Next one is a fan favorite, if you know about it, but it's a lesser known one. So a lot of us really like to have our students do vocabulary activities to help them build their understanding of words so they can be better readers, better writers, and better thinkers moving forward. And a really great feature within Read and Write for Google is it allows you to create some of those vocab worksheets and graphic organizers that we would typically have our students fill in information on their own. It makes one for them automatically. So what better way to have students think about what words are unfamiliar to them or where they need help or key concepts than to have them create that graphic organizer themselves. And they can do that within Read and Write for Google. So if I am on this web page again, I am going to get rid of my highlights. But the vocabulary list builder is right beside that collect highlights button. So I'm going to click vocab list builder. As you see here, it's similar to collect highlights in that it makes another document for me. And it does take it a few minutes. But what it allows it to do is to make a separate document that has vocab terms for me and has them explained. So I like to actually go through and highlight the words first because sometimes it struggles on an actual website in doing that. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight. This means maybe these are my main vocab words, or my teacher told me to look out for these, or these are just ones that I know are important to me and I want to do a little bit more research on. So I'm going to click vocab list again. Makes a separate document for me. There we go. Still loading a little bit, but what it does is it takes those words that I highlighted and makes a graphic organizer for me, puts the definitions there and the pictures of it. I can add my own notes off to the side. So if you're someone that likes to use the Frayer model for using vocabulary, where you have the word in the middle of the square and students write a definition, they write synonyms, antonyms, picture, or their own definition, this is a similar way of doing that in just a little bit fewer steps. So it took all my words, gave me pictures there, and I have editing access to this document, so I can go through and maybe get rid of this as if this is a definition that doesn't necessarily make sense to me. I can delete that, or I can add my own notes off to the side, maybe in my native language, or I can add in audio recordings or other things that I want right there, or links. So that's what this feature does. It builds a vocabulary list for you, which is helpful for your students and pretty empowering and gives them the ability to really uncode or decode their own understanding of words. So speaking of audio recordings, I got ahead of myself again. This is another feature that is pretty spectacular for both teachers and for students, and it's called voice notes. So voice notes only works in Google Docs right now, but what it allows you to do is to create audio recordings, short 1-minute recordings, and put them directly in an assignment, so Google Doc. So your students could do this on that vocab list assignment I just showed you and have their own recording of themselves saying the definition or their own voice notes there explaining the concept. It could be their own thoughts or their own things to remember. If I'm a teacher and I want to give my students more accessible feedback or comments or revisions or suggestions on something that they've turned into me, if it's a Google Doc, I can add voice notes and add my own audio recording of maybe my written out comments and feedback. Not only is that more accessible because it gives students an option, it's more efficient, and it really gives a personal touch to something that might seem a little impersonal, which is written feedback. So if I want to do that, the first thing I'll have to do is open up a Google Doc, whether it's the student's sample work or somewhere else. And again, it's this button way over here. And if I want to use it, I'll click. And I'll click the microphone. Thank you for giving me your highlights. Make sure that you highlight words that you were confused about and then send them to me afterwards. So that was just a reminder one. Whenever I'm finished recording, I click that button. It was a stop button. I can listen back to it. When I'm finished, I click insert. And it looks a little funny at first. It takes a second for it to process. But whenever it is finished processing, it's going to show up as a little microphone off to the side. So it's very visible and eye-catching to my students that there's a voice note that's left there for them. And it's actually not a microphone, it's a play button. And whenever they're ready to listen to it, they just click play. And your students have the ability to add their own voice notes to this too. So you can have your own little audio conversation. This is really great for e-learning, remote teaching, and giving students feedback in a format that is easy for them to understand. This last feature within Read and Write for Google that I'm going to show you today is the practice reading aloud feature. So this allows you, like it implies, to practice reading text out loud and to create audio recordings of you practicing your read alouds. This is particularly great, I think, for some of our early learners who are learning how to read and to practice their fluency. It's also great for anyone who's practicing a presentation, maybe at the high school, middle school, upper elementary level, and they want to practice their slides or their project or any notes. It's also good for our ELL students if they need to practice speaking out loud too, or maybe some of our foreign language students so they can practice oral presentations in that foreign language. So this feature, again, this one also only works in Google Docs, but if you paste any text from somewhere else into a Google Doc, there you have it. You can use it there, even if it's not originally a Google Doc. So if I open up my Google Doc and I go to practice reading out loud, it opens up a new window. And it tells you at first that you have to select text. So if I go back and I highlight, now it's going to tell me that I can practice reading that. So I can record my text and then listen back. I can even share my recording with my teacher if I need to. So it gives me some suggestions there, but that's how you can use the practice reading aloud feature, which is pretty fantastic for some of our students who need to practice some of their fluency. All right. Other last thing here is just web page support. Read and Write for Google, again, works on the web. It's not just specific to Google Docs and Google resources. It works whenever you have the Chrome browser, and this video shows you some of those different features. So Read and Write is definitely an all-in-one accessibility tool. Read and Write for Google has a certification course. There is a little bit of time you have to invest in that and take an exam, but it's a great way to learn the ins and outs of these tools. There's also additional certifications you can get outside of just Read and Write for Google. Those are all linked here, as well as quick reference guides for your students. I would recommend taking the quick reference guide, putting that in your It's Learning course so your students have that as a reminder on how to use this tool. If you have additional questions, please let me know. Don't be a stranger. And I'm here to help. You can also earn professional growth points for your license renewal through participating in this session. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.